Hi, I'm here with Dan Green. He's the author of the book Shadow in the Woods. Dan, I want to thank you for your time and being with us.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a real privilege to be a part of your show.
Yeah, thank you. Now to start, could you tell us, for people that don't know, what your book's about? Shadow in the Woods.
Yeah, thank you. I collected every piece of information I could find on Bigfoot as relates to Maine. So Shadows in the Woods is getting a little bit about Native American legends. Particularly in the 19th century, there are a lot of wild man accounts. Newspapers would carry stories of the most recent wild man sightings. So those are included, as well as more contemporary. I think would more fit the modern mindset of what how we conceptualize Bigfoot. So about 72 or 73 of those more contemporary, mid 20th century to about 2011, I think, accounts are included.
Oh wow! Now, what inspired you to write the book?
Well, my first love is really the state of Maine. So I hope to be able to go into some other areas, with other project. But for this particular one, I grew up in the 70s, and for people who were around then, I think we can appreciate that Bigfoot really permeated the culture. Bigfoot really took off in terms of making an imprint on the cultural mindset. So I grew up with that, and for whatever reason, some things just stick with you. So I've always had kind of an interest in it, and I just reached a point in life where I thought, I should meld these two. People like Quast and his Bigfoot books, and several others have written very good accounts of regional or state-specific books. So I thought, I could give this a try, and I just started collecting information, and slowly, over a few years, it kind of turned into a manuscript.
Oh, okay. Now, in Maine, as there's been a lot of sightings, and have you ever, had a personal experience, or someone that came to you that had a personal experience?
When I was a young boy, my father used to on the side cut some wood, and I remember one of his friends who drove a stitter also cut wood. He related something about hearing something quite odd, and I think he was making an inference to that it could have been something rather strange, if not Bigfoot. I think that was the implication. That was a long time ago. For myself, I come from, I grew up in Franklin, Maine, and there was an occasion where in the mid-'80s, so I was a teenager, I was walking up a blueberry knoll, and I don't think I was heading into the wood line, but there was a wood line atop this sort of ridge, and I think somewhere 30 or 40 yards before I got to that wood line, something made two calls or cries, and then retreated into the woods. So I heard something make a noise, and then I heard its retreat through the tangle of bramble and brush. And I'll be honest with you. If you asked me what made that sound, I would tell you it was an ape, which is totally incongruous with what we would expect to find in Maine. But that's my only personal encounter, and I gave you kind of a flimsy, I guess, story from hearing from someone else's experience. So, that's about it for me personally.
Now, during your writing of the book, was there anybody interviewed or anybody that you know helped like depict their brain, from that area?
No, I mean, not specifically interviewed for the book. People like Bill Brock and Michael Merchants, who, if you're interested in the subject of Bigfoot, or particularly if you combine Bigfoot and Maine, those two names really stand out. And Dan Susi, people of their ilk, who get out into the field and investigate, look for evidence, and in turn write about it, blog about it, make videos about it. That was really what was leveraged to give their to give them credit for what they were doing.
Okay, now have you ever went on on a Bigfoot expedition up in Maine or anywhere?
No, I confess I haven't. No.
Okay, now for people that don't know, obviously you're from Maine. I'm originally from Maine. The area you're from and the area where the sighting was in Turner is pretty heavily wooded. So people are like, oh, it could be, some people say a cow, or the other common thing is people say, oh, it could be a black bear, but there ain't really that many of them in that part of Maine.
Oh, that's a good point. Well, I think you make a couple of great points there. And just to leverage the first one, Maine is heavily wooded and forested. A lot of these old farms, a lot of land that was once cleared, 19th, early 20th century, a lot of that's been reclaimed. And the big mill companies, paper companies, they do a pretty good job. I don't think there are too many complaints. Can't please everybody, but I think the big companies do a pretty good job managing their tracts of land. And so what we end up with Maine is very heavily forested, very kind of wild state. So I think that's a really good point you make. And it just makes me think, because you mentioned the black bears too. When you hear people, that for me is a wonderful thing, when people will share their encounters, and you realize that something that they've experienced is really, it's changed their lives. And I can really, I want to give a lot of respect to that. And someone in Maine who probably has some familiarity with seeing black bears on occasion, and then they see something and they say it's definitely not, or it wasn't a black bear, I'll tend to agree with them.
Yeah, and like you said, it's the sightings. People that see them, and there's been more sightings here in Connecticut. You get accustomed to what they look like, how they move, and most of all, the sounds that they make. So, when you're sharing your experience, you knew it wasn't a bear just by the sounds.
Oh yeah, and that's another great point too. I think as I admit, I haven't, I'm not a field investigator. I consider myself more of for this book, just a researcher, and I tried to weave a good narrative and make something entertaining for people to pick up and read. But that last thing you mentioned was where I think that's, I'm not saying people haven't been pursuing it like this, but I think this will really be the future movement in the field of the study, is to work on producing the kind of the holotype. Here are the behaviors, here's what can be expected from this creatures. It'll lend itself, I think, for predictability, and that'll be really important to, I think, furthering information about the trip.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, a lot of people don't take the time to do what you're doing. I agree, the biggest point before anything going in the field is you got to do your research. And the reported sightings that are coming up weekly now, we see them all the time. If people did what you do and really dig their heels in and do research, they would say, oh, okay, and they would be more knowledgeable of what is and isn't.
Oh, yeah, well, I agree. Start from as good an informed position as you can put yourself in, and I think you'll do yourself a lot of credit there, yeah.
Now, like, for people that want to do research, obviously you've done it from A to Z. How would you tell people, how to start and what steps to take?
Oh, that's interesting. For me, if it's Maine related, and kind of has a tinge for its history, it's very easy for me to get fired up about it. But I think if you're starting with some sort of passion in the guts, everything else kind of flows from there. Everyone has, well, I would hazard to say that people have their own idiosyncratic ways of organizing and approaching something, and that's probably all well and good. But do kind of think about that. How will you organize? How do you want to manage the stuff that you get? Because dealing with a subject like Bigfoot, one can certainly accumulate quite a lot. So I find myself working at ensuring I'm organized. I think there are some great websites out there. Your own investigations of Connecticut, that's got some really helpful links. I think a lot of people that are interested in these sorts of things, Bigfoot in particular, and perhaps related topics, many people are willing to share. And I think that's a key thing, because I really don't know. I don't know so much, particularly from having done, in this field. Like I don't go out and try to put evidence. So for me, it's the research aspect really relies on those brave souls who are going out there and they are doing the legwork and they're willing to share. And consequently, I would certainly take no credit for that. Those individuals I mentioned, the Michael Merchants, the Bill Brox, the Dan Susties, and others, Lauren Coleman. These people are well known, and they just they get credibility. I don't know if I particularly lauded them, but I wanted to give them a lot of credit, put the spotlight on them, because they certainly deserve it. I think I got a little bit off topic on your question, but yeah, I think if you're organized, you've got that passion. Start reaching out. The internet's a great tool. Online newspapers are fantastic. The library, hard, brick and mortar with books and magazines and the databases that they've got are also crucial. So it's all panoply, I think, of good resources out there.
Yeah, and I agree. And as we both think, both can probably attest to, is the best way is to going out and talking to people, in person. But unfortunately, I know it's a big difference. Here in Connecticut, a lot of people turn their nose, but back up in Maine, people are more than happy to sit down with you over a cup of coffee and go from A to Z with you.
Yeah. Good, kind of a regional difference there. Well, I'm glad you said that, because I neglected that in my response just then. But certainly, if going out and talking to witnesses, talking to people who have had experiences, that's bedrock stuff. So that's certainly key. I think you're absolutely right there. Yeah.
Now, your opinion, mine, with the show, obviously, Finding Bigfoot. I love the show, and a couple of the people there are really great. My plus and minuses, in your opinion, the pluses, it's bringing awareness to people and letting them know, hey, it's okay to report a sighting. And my minuses is now, as you see, again, pops up on the internet of these fake photos and videos now almost, twice a week. So what are your thoughts on, the shows that are trying to help people with Bigfoot?
Wow, that's a great question. I have caught several episodes of Finding Bigfoot. The last season or two, I haven't been so current. I totally agree. I think that the biggest plus that I would give the show, is the sharing of information, that broadcasting and exposure that the show gives to the subject. It's reaching a lot of people. The minuses from the first 2 or 3 seasons, where I think I saw probably just about every episode. With the exception of where the setting was, it seemed kind of routine what they were doing. Maybe they go up in a hot air balloon and try that, but there were some occasional novel things introduced into their set routine. But it did seem a little bit. I felt like the hand from the production side of things was the invisible hand, kind of guiding some aspects and facets of the show. Just an impression I got. Certainly, that if it's raising awareness and sharing the topic with lots of people, I guess I'll try to give them credit for that.
Yeah, and for me, to back up a little bit about sightings and stuff. A lot of people, the big skeptics, and some of the people that flat out, make fun of us believers, are like, "Oh, I never seen it. It don't exist." And my thing is, well, I've never seen a ghost, or neither have you, and people believe it exists. People haven't seen a UFO, but they believe they exist. And one thing that I always refer to people is, again, I know we're both going back to Maine, it's our home state, but you can walk by a bear and be 5 feet away. And if that bear doesn't want you to see it, you'll never know it was there. So what's to say that, Bigfoot doesn't do the same thing? And, I think maybe that's something you can elaborate on with the people like a bear. They don't want you to see them. They're going to stay right there. You won't even know they're there.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, I would just jump on that bandwagon. That's absolutely true. You wouldn't mean that this sort of second this carpet of young growth over much of the lower part of the state is a tangle. It really is. This is not the old growth forest where they cut down these massive trees and use them as the masts on the King's Navy. It's a tangle of bramble and bush and young growth trees mostly, and a person could disappear very quickly. A bear certainly could, and with the inferred qualities that Bigfoot is said to have, it could be exactly like you say, it could be 5 feet away and you'd never know. So yeah, that's quite right.
Yeah, and that's, you say to some people, and, I believe, personally, just seen from my things you looked at, I believe in ghosts and Bigfoots and UFOs. I don't need to see it, and it's a good thing, because, Bobo, for Finding Bigfoot, I saw in one of his interviews, which I thought was an excellent response, and the host said to him, "So do you believe in Bigfoot?" And his response was, "I don't believe, I know."
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a classic response, because, being that certain, when you see something, most people would be like, "Well, yeah, I believe," and he was, so, I gave him a lot of credit. It's like, he's standing his ground, so he knows what he saw.
Yeah. Good on him.
Yeah, so, like I said, so that, was pretty good, and, as far as, the book and all now, I put, so people know the link to buy your book and everything's on, my websites and everything else. Are you going to be working on another book down the road, or what are your plans?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much for that. I certainly do appreciate the exposure that the book is getting. So the book is published through Coach Whip Publications, and that's Chad Arment, and whom I had the great fortune to, after working with them through email mostly, for the last, I don't know, was it 8 months before the book was actually published? It was a while. Fine-tuning and finalizing things. I finally got to meet him this past weekend, and kind of in a informal way, ran an idea by him. So perhaps there's more to follow. I wonder too, more. So for myself, I wouldn't mind trying something else. We'll have to see. I certainly look forward to others who might be doing ventures in this vein as well.
Oh, okay, great. And so people, like you said, right now you're stationed in Virginia.
Yep.
Because you are in the U.S. Army, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And myself, I'm sure everybody else listening would definitely like to thank you for your service, and it's greatly appreciated.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you.
So, that's good, Dan, and I'll stay in touch with you through email. We'll chat and everything else, and I'm actually heading, back up to Maine this coming week. And
Okay.
yeah, and one question I forgot to ask you. Did you see that video that just got released about the Bigfoot and Turner?
Yes. Yep.
To me, it looks like it was staged and it was a human, walking. What is your opinion?
Well, it's an interesting video. It does have a certain feel, I have to say, from my gut, the way the camera was placed, just kind of left there. It does have a feeling of being staged. Now, I know that, I think Michael Merchant is also, I don't want to speak for him, but I think I've heard him say he's kind of of that opinion as well. Bill Brock, I think it's fair to say he's championing the video, and he has an argument for why it's not fake, it's not staged, and he'll reference some measurements that were done to show the size of the thing that's being filmed going across the roadway, the pathway there. So he's got a good argument for it as well. I guess it's intriguing. I respect Bill Brock and Michael Merchant. They're both on opposite sides here. But you asked my opinion. When I first saw it, I thought it was staged.
Yeah, and me too. And that area, that's, people don't know, that's on an old logging road.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing, aside from why I think it's staged, is there's no vocal response when, the alleged Bigfoot crosses. I know if I seen something like that going across, I'd be like, oh my God, you'd have some reaction. You wouldn't just sit there dead silent.
Yeah, I would. I can guarantee you, I would react. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my personal opinion. Why me and a lot of other people are like, no, because you would have said, oh my God, or look, or why not take some still photos, do something, and that's just my opinion. I just think it was, it's not real. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. Well, I'm sorry I didn't get that sooner. But I'll, let you go because I know you're busy, and I definitely appreciate your time, and I'll be in touch.
Well, that's great. Thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. I hope I didn't. I'm sure I tested your patience leading up to this with 100 emails. But thank you for for making this happen. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, no, thank you, Dan. Everything's your time. You're the one giving me time, so I definitely appreciate that.
Well,
I
okay.
think.
Well,